Hello everybody, welcome back to the e-learning space for MGM Higher Secondary School, Bokaro. This is the first video for Unit 3, Section B of English for Class 8 main course book. Today, the prose that we are going to deal with is titled Boating with Friends. It is written by the very famous author Jerome K Jerome. Let us now discuss Unit 3. As you all know, your textbook, The English Channel by Britannica Learning, is divided into separate units, and each unit has a particular theme. Unit 1 was all about surprise and suspense. Unit 2 dealt with the theme of Emerald Earth. Here we are beginning Unit 3. This is titled All in Good Humor. So, as the title suggests, we shall be dealing with stories, poems, and fictions which are humorous and comic. I hope you like such stories. I hope you have read the work of writers like P.G. Wodehouse, Douglas Adams, Terry Pratchett. If not, type these names in your Google search and look them up. You must have watched certain films and stories which are comic in nature. A comic story helps us release stress and catches us in the moment. So here are certain words, and according to the emotion that they generate in you, you have to divide them into columns of tragedy, thriller, or comedy. We shall discuss about your favorite comic actor in our online sessions. So let us begin the chapter. The chapter is titled Boating with Friends, and it is written by the author Jerome K Jerome. So let us learn who Jerome K Jerome was. He was born in the year 1859 and died in the year 1927. He was an English writer and humorist. A humorist is a person who writes comic books and stories to generate laughter and humor in the readers. His best known comic is a travelogue, Three Men in a Boat. It was written in the year 1889. He has written some other essays as well, like Idle Thoughts of an Idle Fellow and The Second Thoughts of an Idle Fellow, Three Men on the Bummel. This is supposed to be a sequel to Three Men in a Boat, and he has written several other novels, but Three Men in a Boat is his most celebrated work. Here is a picture of the author, Jerome K. Jerome. About the text. The short story which we are going to read today is an edited extract from the novel Three Men in a Boat by Jerome K. Jerome. The book was published in 1889 and it became an instant success, and it has never been out of print. Its popularity was such that the number of registered Thames boats went up 50% in the year following its publication, and it contributed significantly to the Thames becoming a tourist attraction. Thames is a river in England. And its first 20 years alone, the book sold over 1 million copies worldwide. That's a huge success. It has been adapted to films, TV and radio shows, stage plays, and even musicals. Its writing style influenced many humorists and satirists in England and elsewhere. So satirists are people who poke fun at others by roasting them, by making fun of their work or certain other qualities. So Jerome K. Jerome became instantly famous when he wrote this book, Three Men in a Boat, and the story that we are going to read today is only a small extract, and that too an edited version from the original book. Let us begin the reading and the explanation of the story. Children, it is said that the best time a person spends is with their friends and family. I hope you agree with this. When you're with your friends, you're playing games, you're talking to them, you're having fun, you're sharing. The same kind of fun is cannot be repeated elsewhere. So this is a story of three friends who have gone out boating in the river Thames and the adventure that they faced. Let us begin the reading. Who are the three friends and what was the adventure and how was it humorous for the reader? What is comic about the story? There were three in a boat: Jerome, George, and Harry. They planned to spend a few days boating on the Thames. The clock on the cabin wall showed 6 in the morning. For the past hour, Jerome and George had been sitting huddled up in blankets, sharing their experiences, some true and some not so true. When Jerome finished his narration, George set to work to wake up Harry with the point of an umbrella. "Wake up, lazy bones!" The third prod did it, but he turned over on the other side and said he would be down in a minute. He was still dreaming. They soon let him know where he was, however, with the aid of the boat hook, and he sat up suddenly. So from the beginning itself, we come to know how many friends are there. There are three friends. The names are Jerome, George, and Harry. They have planned that they would be spending some time on a boat on the river Thames. And the boat cabin has a clock which is showing 6 in the morning. It's 6 a.m. in the morning. And for the past 1 hour, means since 5 a.m., Jerome and George have been sitting together. And of course, it's morning time, so it's quite cold and chilly in England. So they are having blankets over them. They're together in a blanket and they have been sharing experiences. Like friends talk with each other, they are chatting. And in order to share experiences, they are making up certain stories also. Not all the stories that they are sharing with each other are true. Some are even imaginative or fictional. And when they finished their narration, they wanted to wake up Harry. So, with an umbrella, as you can see in the picture, with the pointy end of the umbrella, Harry is still sleeping, fast asleep. They poke him, like pressure the point of the umbrella into him and try to wake him. Lazy bones is a word used for a person who is not very active or is lazy. So while they were prodding him, pushing the pointy end of the umbrella, they were trying to wake him up. Harry just woke up and said, "Okay, okay, I'll be down in a minute." That means he's still dreaming, he's speaking in his sleep. And then what they did, they took the boat hook. Boat hook is a device, it's a long stick with a hook at the end, used for various purposes during boating. So they took that boat hook and prodded that one into Harry, and he suddenly woke up. And that's quite funny, to poke your friend with the pointy end of an umbrella, then poke him with the boat hook and wake him up, and this friend is speaking in his sleep. So that's a funny atmosphere itself there. Turn over the page. George pulled up the canvas and the three of them poked their heads out to look down at the water. They shivered at the sight. The idea, agreed upon the night before, had been that they would get up early in the morning, fling off the blankets, leap into the river with a joyous shout, and enjoy a long, delicious swim. Now that morning had arrived, however, the notion seemed less tempting. The water looked dark and chilly, the wind felt cold. So now the three friends are up and about. They remove the canvas. Canvas is a covering of a boat in order to protect oneself from the wind and the water. If boating people are out on the river, they cover their boat with a canvas. So they took out the canvas and looked outside, and they saw that the sight was a cold one. They shivered because it was early morning, and the night before, these friends, what they had thought, that early morning they're going to get up, they're going to get out of their blankets. Fling off means remove their blankets, and they would take a jump and dive into the river. They would have a glorious moment, shouting and having fun. and they're going to swim in the morning water. But now, when the morning had come, they were all afraid because it was so cold. The water looked extremely dark and chilly, and the morning wind was so cold. And now the idea wasn't looking as delicious and tempting as they had thought the other night in the energy of talking to each other in the moment. So last night they were all caught up and excited that in the morning they're going to have a good swim in the morning water. But now, when the morning had come, nobody wanted to take the swim. However, they're not saying this to each other that no, we are not going to take a swim. The conversation carries on like this. Let us read and learn. "Well, who's going in first?" said Harry at last. So Harry broke the silence and says that who's going to swim in first means into the river. There was no rush for precedence. George settled the matter for himself. He sat down and started pulling on his socks. Harry said it would be messy to get into the boat again, so he started sorting his clothes and promptly dressed for the day. That left Jerome to decide what he was going to do. So there was no rush for precedence means nobody took the initiative to jump into the river. Nobody said, yes, I would go first. So what did George do? He just sat down and he started pulling his socks on. Means he started wearing his socks. That means he is not going to jump into the river. And then Harry said that, no, if I jump in, means it would become messy. The boat would become watery and messy. So he just started selecting his clothes and what he's going to do for the day. He started getting dressed. Now Jerome had to decide what he was going to do. These two people, from their action, they had very well shown that they were not ready to jump into the river. It was Jerome's idea in the first place, and he desperately wanted to show that it wasn't a harebrained idea at all. Though now he did not relish the plunge. He began to make excuses for himself. There might be snakes about or weeds, but then he decided to save face by going down to the edge and just dipping his legs in the river. He took a towel, crept out onto the bank, and wormed his way along onto the branch of a tree that dipped down into the water. So Jerome did not know what to do. It was his idea last night that they are going to get up early in the morning and jump into the river, and now George and Harry had very well shown from their action that they were not going to do so. Now Jerome thought that he has to save face. Save face means he has to save his honor because it was his idea. Harebrained idea means he did not want to show people that it was a silly idea. They can do it. Although he did not himself wanted to jump into the river, it looked quite cold and dangerous. But what he did, he started arguing with himself. He started making excuses that there might be snakes in the river, there might be certain weeds that a person might get caught in if they jump into the river. But then he thought that no, at least he should save his idea, keep the honor intact because he has suggested this. So what he thought, he would just go by the river and dip his leg into it. Okay, both legs he would dip into the river. So he took a towel and crept onto the bank. Crept is showing that he's not very willing to go, but yes, just to save his idea and to show others that no, this can be done, it's not a bad idea. He took a towel and started going out onto the bank. Then he somehow reached a branch of a tree. This branch of a tree was halfway above the river. You get the picture. The river is flowing and there is a branch of a tree that is extending out into the river. So he sat on the branch and then he dipped down both his legs into the water. It was bitterly cold. The wind cut like a knife as it stood on the overhanging branch. Then he started having second thoughts. He would meekly go back into the boat and dress. He decided to risk their jeers, but as he turned, the wicked branch gave way, and he and the towel went in together with a tremendous splash. He was out midstream with a liter of the Thames's water inside him before he knew what had happened. So now first he dipped his leg, then he stood out on the branch, he stood up on the branch and he thought that he would take a dive. But just then he changed his mind. Second thoughts means he changed his mind because the wind was so sharp and cold. It was biting into his skin. So he decided it's not worthwhile, it's not needed. He should not jump into this cold water. He should just turn back. He will get dressed and go into the boat. He would risk the jeers. Jeers means the fun, the friends would poke fun at him that, see, this was your idea, but you're not brave enough to do it. You expect us to jump into the water. And he thought that, no, no, it's not worth. I can just endure all the fun of my friends that they'll poke at me, but I cannot endure the chilly wind and the chilly water in this cold morning. So he thought he would just turn back. But at that moment, while he was standing on the branch and he was turning back, the branch broke. Gave away means the branch broke, and with a splash, he fell into the water along with the doll that he was carrying. And now this was midstream. Midstream means river has a stream. Okay, the beginning, the mid, the late stream. So midstream is having high current, and it's very very chilly over there. So the about a liter of water rushed into his lungs because he was not prepared to take a dive. This was sudden, so the cold water rushed into his lungs. He felt every bit of the cold in his biting into his skin, inside his lungs, inside his body, and before he could realize what has happened, he was already deep in the water. "Hey dude, Jerome's gone in," he heard Harry say as he came blowing to the surface. "I didn't think he'd have the pluck to do it, did you?" So while Jerome was plunged in the water all of a sudden and he was trying to come out and break the surface of the water and come out, he heard that Harry was talking in disbelief. He was calling out to his other friend George and saying, "Hey, dude, here is for friend. See, Harry has taken the plunge." And he could not believe that he has the courage to do it. And George was laughing out of his wits. He was sniggering. Sniggering means laughing, making fun of Jerome. And he was asking, "How's the water?" "Lovely," Jerome spluttered back. He was angry, Jerome, because of the sudden biting of the cold wind and splashing of the cold water inside into his lung, the rush of the early chilly morning winter. He could not believe this has happened with him, and he was angry that his friends were making fun of him. So he just bited into their sniggers and said, "Lovely, the water was lovely, and you all are fools that you are not going into the water. I wouldn't miss this chance for the world. Come on, come in and try it." He wants them also to feel the same bitter cold of the Thames water. He's saying just a wee bit of determination, that's all it takes. But no, nothing could persuade them. Wee bit means tiny. Just be determined a little bit, just a little bit of courage. That's what he's saying. And then you may enjoy the water. Just jump inside the water. But they wouldn't fall for the trick. They are like, "That's it. No, no, we are not going to be persuaded by you. We are fine. We do not want to take this monstrous jump." Jerome was very cold when he got back into the boat, and in his hurry to get his shirt on, accidentally jerked it into the water. It annoyed him all the more because George found it very amusing and guffawed. So now Jerome was already very cold. He somehow got back into the boat, and now he was trying to wear the shirt hurriedly. But what happened in that hurry of wearing the shirt again fell into the water. Now this annoyed him very much. And on top of that, he was cold. He did not have a shirt to wear. His shirt was inside the water. And George found all this very funny. He was guffawing. Guffawing means laughing extremely loudly, not able to contain the humor inside. He was amused. He was laughing. And Jerome scolded him, "You monster." Monster, a friendly tone of saying that you are not a good person to a friend. "Have some pity on me." He's saying that you should be sorry for me. I got thrown into the water accidentally. I am freezing. And you're laughing at me? But George found his protest even more hilarious and laughed hysterically. So George thought that this was extremely funny, that he has fallen into the water, his shirt has fallen into the water, he is lying in the cold. So George started laughing even more. And when he was pleading, Jerome was saying to George that you should be pitying me. George started laughing even more hysterically. And Jerome had never seen him laugh so wickedly. He lost his temper with him. "What a heartless maniac you are," he said. But George only roared louder. After seeing that George could not contain his laughter at his misery, Jerome was actually very angry with his friend George, and he lost his temper. Lost his temper means he became very angry with George. But George was not someone who was going to stop laughing. He kept laughing even louder. When Jerome became angry with him, George laughed even louder. Roared louder means laughed even louder. Now Jerome managed to get the shirt onto the boat hook and haul it out of the water. I told you in the beginning, boat hook is a rod with a hook at the end used for various purposes during boating and fishing. So he used that boat hook and he tried to take out his shirt out of the water. Haul means to take out, to retrieve it. At that precious moment, he realized that it was not his shirt at all, but George's. So here the tables have turned. Now Jerome has a moment to laugh, and it is George's time to be angry and upset because the shirt that Jerome was trying to take out of the water was not actually Jerome's, it was his friend's, George's. He had mistaken it for his in a hurry to get dressed. So while coming out of the water, getting into the boat, and hurriedly getting dressed, by mistake he has not picked up his own shirt. He had picked up his friend George's shirt, and that has fallen into the water. And while taking it out, he realized that precious moment because it's a moment for Jerome to laugh about. The humor of the thing struck Jerome for the first time. Now Jerome started feeling humorous. He realized that this is a comic situation. Unnecessarily, he is getting angry at George. He should be laughing because by mistake it is George's shirt that has fallen into the river. And he began to laugh. Now Jerome started laughing. And the more he looked from George's wet shirt to George, roaring with laughter, the more he was amused. When he looked at the shirt, then he looked at George, who was laughing because he has no clue it is his shirt, and Jerome felt the humor of the situation set in, that George is actually laughing at his own wet shirt. So this again amused Jerome, and now Jerome started laughing, and he laughed so much that instead of taking out the shirt, he let it fall into the water again. And George said that, aren't you going to get it out? George is still laughing, and he is laughing so much that he cannot speak a sentence properly. He is talking to Jerome. He's saying that, why are you throwing your shirt back into the water? Aren't you going to take your shirt back? And he's saying all this while laughing at the situation. Now Jerome has already started laughing. Even he could not answer for a certain time. After had laughed his heart out, he said that, peals of laughter. Between peals of laughter means while laughing heartily, he managed to speak. Jerk out means to speak. It isn't my shirt, it's yours. Now, this sentence changed the entire situation. Now, Jerome had never seen George become so severe. Severe means suddenly so serious. He was laughing, roaring, shrieking. He was wickedly hilarious about everything that Jerome was going through. But as soon as he heard this sentence that it was not Jerome's shirt, it was George's shirt, the facial expression of George changed suddenly. What? He yelled, springing up. Springing up means getting up. You silly cuckoo, my most expensive shirt? Why can't you be more careful of what you're doing? Why don't you go and dress on the bank? You're not fit to be in a boat. Give me the boat hook. So he's extremely angry. He got up with anger and he's calling his friend a silly cuckoo. Silly cuckoo is someone who has lost his mind. He is not in a good sense. And he says that that was my most expensive shirt and you cannot be careful at all. You do not know how to do certain things. Please go and dress up in the bank. You are not fit to be on this boat. And he just tries to take the boat hook from him. Give me means give me. It is the short or contracted version of give me. Now Jerome tried to make him see the fun of the thing, but he could not. Jerome is trying to show him that, see, when this happened to me, you were laughing. So now the same thing has happened to you. You are angry. Why aren't you laughing again? But George was not somebody who was going to listen to his reasons and rhyme. George was very dense at seeing a joke sometimes. Dense means somebody who does not understand easily. So Jerome, in the story, George, when the things are happening to him, when tragedy is striking George, George is not happy about it. But when the tragedy had befallen his own friend Jerome, at that time the situation felt hilarious to George. Or perhaps he didn't care much about doing to others as he wanted them to do to him. Harry found that really amusing, and all of these things, Harry found the situation quite amusing. That when George was not in trouble, he was laughing at the troubles of Jerome. Now, when George is in trouble, Jerome is laughing, but George is finding it very, very silly. and he is angry about it. It seemed George had not understood the principle, do to others as you would have others do to you. So even in this comic situation, Jerome K. Jerome has been able to deliver a moral lesson to us. You should do to others what you would not mind others to do to you. Means if you're laughing at someone, have the courage to be laughed at. You cannot expect to make fun of others and then not be made fun of. That's the moral of the story. However, the situation is amusing. There are three friends on a boat trying to have a nice time together, chatting, gossiping, having an adventure. But one small uh, dare is not enough to throw away all their courage and jump and take a plunge into the cold water of the Thames. However, by mistake, Jerome gets plunged into that chilly water, and the biting winds leave him extremely numb and cold. And his friend George is laughing at him at all these adventures of his misadventure, you can say. And when a similar situation is hurled at George, when his own shirt is inside the water and others are laughing at him, Harry is amused, Jerome is laughing with humorous laughters and peals of laughters. He's unable to speak. He's laughing so much. George is angry. This is just an extract, and if you want to read the whole story, it's an amusing one available on the internet. So we have completed the reading of the lesson and the explanation. Here is the glossary, children. So your job is to learn it and write it down in your copies. In our next video lesson, we shall be discussing more about the story, the elements in the story, and also the textual exercises. Till then, children, thank you and take care.